Good morning. It's Friday, October 3rd. The multi-front war in the Middle East is now 728 days old. I'm your host, Jonathan Schanzer. Welcome back yet again to the FDD Morning Brief. Well, it was the holiest day of the year for Jews, but that didn't stop the haters. There was a terrorist attack on a synagogue in Manchester yesterday, and around the same time, the flotilla of Hamas wannabes entered Israeli territorial waters, so they were intercepted by the Israeli Navy. And in case you didn't notice, the Israelis have finally stepped up their PR game just a little. They're calling it the Yom Kippur flotilla. That should be shameful for all those flotilla people trying to illegally enter Israel's borders with hostile intent on a solemn holy day, but I don't think they care. Yes, today's guest is Amotz Eyal, founder and CEO of TPS-IL, the press service of Israel. TPS is an excellent resource for news, but they were involved in an investigation into the Islamic Republic's use of organized crime networks around the world, including drug cartels and biker gangs, to attack Jewish people and institutions, Iranian dissidents, and pretty much anyone else the regime didn't like. We're going to bring Amotz on to the program in just a few short minutes, so stay tuned. As we approach the 2-year mark of this war, I began to look back and think about everything that has transpired. The Israeli people have been through a hell of a thing. It began with 1,200 dead and 250 hostages in one day. That was accompanied by Hamas rockets, of course. Then Hezbollah jumped in, and just like that, we had a two-front war. Then came the accusations of war crimes, including massive protests on American college campuses, and that was before Israel sent a single soldier into Gaza. Then came the lawfare, International Criminal Court, International Court of Justice. Then the two-front war became 6. The Houthis started to attack. Ditto, the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria. And don't forget the terrorist groups in Judea and Samaria. 6 fronts became 7 back in April when Iran decided to get involved. 3 separate rounds of that. And don't get me started on the cyber war. It was frightening, especially because we couldn't see it. Oh, and don't forget the flotillas, the cognitive warfare, the anti-Semitic violence in Western capitals, the campaign to recognize a Palestinian state, the economic boycott of Israeli products, and the Hollywood campaign to shun Israel and supporters. In short, these past 2 years have been insane. There's never been another war like it. So I have to ask, with so many other terrible crimes being perpetrated by rogue regimes worldwide, why was Israel the target of so much hate? I think we all know the answer, but I had to ask. Now for your headlines. Headline 1, German authorities arrested three suspected Hamas operatives one day before Yom Kippur. 2 of the suspects are German citizens. The third was born in Lebanon. They were allegedly plotting attacks against Israeli and Jewish targets. During a raid, authorities found an AK-47 assault rifle, multiple pistols, and a load of ammo. Hamas denied any connection to the trio, not buying that, but get this, the terrorist group said that the allegations were designed to undermine German sympathy for the Palestinian cause, and that the group has always limited its operations to Israel and the Palestinian territories. Oh, really? Because this isn't the first time Hamas operatives have been arrested in Europe. European authorities have arrested several Hamasniks since October 7th, including in Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. A reminder, just because themselves freedom fighters doesn't give them the freedom to make up a bunch of bull fertilizer, and we definitely don't have to buy it. Headline 2, Israeli forces dismantled a large rocket cache in the West Bank. I mentioned this briefly on Wednesday as the reports were just coming in. Now we know more. We're talking about more than a dozen rockets. After receiving intelligence on the location of the stash in Ramallah, IDF troops, or Ramallah area rather, IDF troops, border police, and Shin Bet operatives raided the scene overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning. The operation took place in a town called Beituna. Israeli forces found 15 rockets in various stages of production. But wait, there's more. The Israelis also found 18 explosive devices, firearms, and explosive material at the scene. Some of the rockets and other weapons were seized, and Israeli border police destroyed the rest. Folks, keep your eye on the West Bank. It's still very much an active front. And headline 3, Israel's Navy intercepted the flotilla attempting to break the so-called blockade of Gaza. Except guess what? The Navy reports that a bunch of boats didn't have any aid at all. Surprise! The operation began on Wednesday evening. By noon on Thursday, Israeli commandos had boarded over 40 of the flotilla's 47 ships and detained hundreds of activists. Just before 2 o'clock, Israeli foreign minister, the ministry rather, confirmed that the episode was over and that none of the boats had breached Israeli-controlled waters. The Israelis are getting better at this. Anyone remember the first one, sponsored by Turkish terror-supporting charity IHH back in 2010? That interception led to clashes and even deaths on the high seas. The Israeli Navy now knows how to handle these mishugas. That includes Swedish meatball Greta Thunberg, who complained to the media yesterday about being mistreated, but could not actually support her accusations as she bumbled and fidgeted on camera. Israel's foreign ministry helped her find the right words with a pithy statement. Quote, Greta and her friends are safe and healthy, end quote. Anyone want to take bets on how long it takes for Greta to try to come back again for a third time? I'll take that money. I'm pretty sure it's coming pretty soon. That woman can't stop drawing attention to herself in whatever way she finds fitting. By the way, the last ship has been boarded. The episode's over, but we know there'll be more. Bonus headline 4, the U.S. Treasury Department slapped sanctions on 21 entities and 17 individuals involved in Iranian weapons procurement networks supporting the regime's ballistic missile and military aircraft programs. I won't get into all of it here, but suffice it to say it's open sanctions season on the regime in Iran right now. Pass the popcorn. Okay, it's time for my interview with Amotz Eyal of TPSIL. So let's dive right in. Welcome to the program, Amotz Eyal.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning. All right, let's start with TPS. Tell us about it, and why do most Americans not know about it?
It's not just most Americans, it's most of the people around the world, because the essence work of TPS is to be behind the scene. We are a supplier of news to other media outlets. We are not a news portal. We don't have our news website that people can go and read our stuff. We're supplying our stories to media outlets that you read. For example, in the US, Fox News is one of our customers, the National Post in Canada, and different places in the world. We have customers that's running our stories, and the credit we're getting is in the byline, but no one is really reading the byline of the article. So I think this is the main reason why people don't know our name, but they know, of course, our stories that we expose and we share with our customers.
All right. So when I think about press services like yours, AP, Reuters, AFP, I don't know, maybe a few others, I usually see other media outlets pick up their pieces and run with them, and you see the attribution, right? It'll say by so-and-so reporter plus AP or plus wire services, right? Or we see the byline or the credit on photos. Do foreign media outlets run your articles and photos? Do they give you that kind of attribution? And I guess more importantly, or maybe as importantly, what about the Israeli publications? Are they running it in Israel?
So sure. First of all, every media outlet that's using our content is giving us the byline and the picture. Because our name is not known, again, if you're talking about AP and Reuters, it's more than 100 years old news agency that everyone know their name and it's ring a bell. So when you read it, you remember it was their reportage. When you see TPS, you don't put attention to it because you didn't know who they are or who we are. So the media outlets giving us the credit, also in Israel. In Israel, almost all the media outlets in Israel are getting our stories and pictures every day. We supplying daily breaking news and information from everything that's happening in Israel. We have more than 400 photographers across the country in Israel, so it makes us the strongest source of any breaking news in Israel. And mostly when you will see a terror attack, unfortunately, in Israel, you will look on the credit and you will see it's coming from TPS, but you need to look for it. Otherwise you will not understand it came from us.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's talk about the big story you broke recently about this criminal network that has now been uncovered. This is a criminal network run by the Islamic Republic in Iran, and apparently it spans the globe. But tell us, what have you found, and what do we need to know about it?
So you started the show and you talk about Germany. I will not be surprised to find that Iran is behind it and not Hamas. Iran have a terror group or organized crime group that working for Iran. Iran is paying them to attack Jewish targets. It's happened in Germany before with Hells Angels gang. It happened in Sweden with Rumba and with Foxtrot. The gangs there. It's happened in Cyprus and in Greece, and we see it also in the U.S. and Canada and other places that Iran, they don't want to. They want to be kind of clean, so they're paying other groups to do their job. And we need to remember, Iran is one of the biggest drugs exporters in the world, and they're working with them and Hezbollah, working with groups that supplying the drugs in the different countries. So the groups that supplying the drugs in the countries are becoming the proxies of Iran to terror attacks and to anti-Semitic events. In Belgium, it happened, in Sweden, like I mentioned, Germany, and Australia. Of course, it was one of the maybe the stories that break everything, because Australia find Iran guilty and kick out the Iranian ambassador from the country because they prove it was Iran behind it. That's what led us to make the deeper investigation and to find all the other places. And every place that I mentioned it was well known in the country or for the security forces there that Iran is involved, but no one connected the dot between the countries and between the different places and show that is systematically Iran targeting Jewish causes there.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things come to mind as you talk about this network. One, I mean, maybe just speak for a minute about Sweden. I mean, that one was interesting to me because they were recruiting kids, right? I mean, this was not just a normal criminal network. They're targeting teenagers, right?
Again, like a lot of drug networks, they're not they're using kids to sell drugs, so they use kids to shoot against the Israeli consul.
Okay, but there's a big difference between finding a kid to do drug running and then giving them a gun and telling them to shoot at an embassy in what would be potentially an international incident, right? There is a difference.
I don't believe that the kid thinking about that. It's the easy target. The kids is always easy target. They're telling them you need to do it, so they're doing it. And the problem is with the people behind it, the people that don't care about nothing, don't have any morality. They can use anything and just to attack Jewish people. We saw it in London. Again, people attacked Jewish people not because they were Zionists or pro-Israelis. They didn't check their ID and they didn't check their what they vote. They saw their yarmulke. They saw that they went to synagogue and they tried to kill them. And they succeeded, unfortunately, yesterday. That's they don't have any morality. They have a goal, and Iran understood that they cannot beat Israel military-wise. So they went to another front and tried to make the world against Israel to give the feeling to the Jewish people that they don't have a safe place around the world. Now, if people will not recognize that it's coming from organized place, it looks so scary. It's like in the news. You know what? Maybe I will go back now to the news. I started the Israeli news agency, Wire Service. Why? Because I saw a huge problem in all around the world in what the information is coming, spreading about Israel. Okay, we see articles in Japan and in South Africa and in South America, every place against Israel. It looks like a disaster. Everyone is hating Israel, but if you trying to check what behind it, where everyone getting the same sources, you understand in the end that is three sources is applying 85% of the world information. And you mentioned them, AP, Reuters, and AFP. They are the international news for almost all the media outlets around the world. So when you understand that you have three sources that are controlling what you know about Israel, It makes sense to see the same headline in Latin America and in Asia and in US and in Europe, because they got from the same source. How many reporters you have in Israel, foreign reporters? How many in total? You have today, because the war, maybe around thousands media outlets that have 1,000 media outlets that have a correspondent in Israel. How come all the world have the same headlines, have information? Because it's sourcing it.
That's something I think we all need to go back and look at, because I think certainly over the last 3 months, the talk of famine in particular, right? The way the headlines seem highly coordinated, to me seems like something I want to look into. But actually, let me ask you exactly about that. You had a famine story. It was a scoop. Tell us about it.
So I saw a lot of the coverage around the world about the famine in Gaza. Okay, and I saw from the other side the Israeli information about how many trucks Israel allowing every day to enter to Gaza. Said something here looks strange for me. So many trucks and famine. What we're missing here? So first of all, I sent my own photographer in Gaza and asked him. TPS have photographers inside Gaza. Asked the Palestinian photographer, go to the market, take a picture of the markets. And he went to the market in Gaza and took picture of market full with fruit, vegetables, food, all Israeli food, but it was on the for sale. And then I said, okay, ask the the people that selling the food, ask them where the food from. And they said that they're getting it from different places. But the food coming in trucks to free distribution, how it's going to people in the market, to salesperson in the market. So we started to make our own investigative story. And first of all, we found a document from Hamas, official document of Hamas that's saying that they're taking officially 25% from the food that's coming into Gaza Strip to their own use. That was the first document. It was a bit funny, but it's not really funny, because on Sunday, we ran our story on Tuesday, a few months ago. On the same Sunday, the New York Times ran a story with unknown officer from the Israeli army that said that Israel doesn't have any proof that Hamas is stealing food. He's taking the food from the UN. And I have the document. I know that the army have it. How come the New York Times, they don't need to respond to no one, because they give the attribute to unknown officer. But for sure they lie or they made mistake. But that was the first part of the investigation, to show that Hamas is taking, and with their own document, 10 to 25% of the food. Then we check in the UN its own data, and we find, I think, kind of shocking data that show that UN is losing 87% of their trucks. Just for you're sending 100 trucks every day, 87 of them they're losing to Hamas or to other people, and it's not getting to the people that need the food. And it's on their own data, the UN own data, but no one look on that, and no one. Of course, when we ask the UN for response for that, they say, or we ask them, why are you not working with GHF, with the American companies that giving the food to people, and it's successful. They gave more than 2 million portions of food every day when we asked that. And they said, because we know how to do it in the best way. And then you admitting that you're losing 87% of the trucks, something here is didn't make sense for us.
Yeah. I got to say, none of it made any sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me. I feel like this has been a manufactured narrative for sure. There have been a lot of missing pieces in the reporting. I'm glad you've been tracking it. I think more needs to be known, and I think more needs to be known also about the coordination.
Sure, but I want to take you again. Why it's happening? So I think it's connected to how also the media was working in Gaza. We started to speak about how the information is going from there. So how the media is working in Gaza? Think about regime like Hamas that have controlling everything there. He will allow journalists to work freely in Gaza? No, he will allow just people that doing whatever he wants to cover there or not. Same with the UN. The Hamas will not let to the UN to work freely in Gaza. He will appoint the people there. He will make sure that they're working under his rules. And that's how the UN working inside Gaza.
Yeah, and more needs to be understood about that. Last question before I let you go. Talk to me about this Tazpit church story. That was another story you guys broke.
Yeah, so we heard on Saturday, or we saw a big story from Reuters about settlers that touch old church, historical church in the town of Taibe in Binyamin region in Judea and Samaria. And I look at the article and I saw that all the article built on one comment, like someone that gave them the information without any evidence, with nothing there. So I said, okay, let's check it. And I went by myself to Taibe, and I took pictures of the church. And first of all, I found out that the church wasn't burned at all. You had around 150 meters, or let's say 100 meters from the church, a small place with that was burned, but the church didn't hurt at all. Then I said, okay, which video we have from the same day? And the only video that I saw, it was a video of settlers that trying to take down the fire, to shut down the fire. And I said, okay. Then I connected to the Israeli police and asked them, did the Palestinians complain against the settlers that touched the place? The answer was no. And I asked them, okay, what's happened there? They said the settlers complained that the Palestinians touched and burned the field there. And it's very important to know that this story was international story. Then the U.S. ambassador, Mike Huckabee, went there and said that you need to investigate it. And who did it did terrible things, and you can hear from his words that he thought that he was settlers. But after we released our investigative story and pictures and all the evidence, we were happy to see that the ambassador said officially that he's not believing anymore that it was settled, because it wasn't, and it all proved that it was Arabs that tried to burn fields that the settlers came with their ships and tried to give them the food. It wasn't connected to the church at all, and it was a fight on the land.
Wow. Well, keep up the good work. Keep exposing, keep doing the hard work of digging for truth. Thank you, Amotz Eyal, for joining us today in the FDD Morning Brief.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Interesting. You don't hear about them very much, but it sounds like they're doing good work. Here's what FDD has on tap for you today. FDD's Ahmad Sharawi has a new policy brief explaining how Hezbollah is quietly using the instability in Syria to its advantage. Hezbollah is smuggling weapons into Lebanon through Syria to build its battered arsenal, or to rebuild it. It's not as easy as it used to be, but it's still happening. Ahmed argues that Washington should push Syria's new government to crack down. It's time to hold Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, Ahmed al-Shara, whatever you want to call him, it's time to hold him to account, not just give him sanctions relief. And while we're on a policy brief kick, check out the one that FDD's Aaron Gorin published on Trump's 20-point plan for Gaza. Aaron breaks down the plan's nuts and bolts, and he warns Washington not to let Hamas shift the goalposts, which it already is if recent reports are true. Hamas is now saying that 72 hours is not enough to release the hostages. They say they need more time to release the hostages. They also say they need more time to review the deal that Trump has put on the table. Stick to the plan, Donald. Hold them to account. Hold their feet to the fire. That's it. That's the game. Finally, my colleague Bridget Toomey is out with a new insight on our website, unpacking 8 UN failures in Yemen. The United Nations has been active in Yemen for over a decade, but the country remains a basket case. Bridget runs through the UN's sorry record at the negotiating table and in the field, which is basically just one blunder and misstep after another. By the way, the Qataris have been involved in trying to broker things in Yemen, and they failed too. Anyway, back to Bridget's piece. It's a tough but worthwhile read. Highly recommend it. All right, folks, with that, I'm just about ready to shut my pie hole. If you're craving more brainy content, check out the expert analysis on our website, fdd.org, and across socials. Also, consider making that tax-deductible donation, a generous one if you wish, at fdd.org/invest. Tune in Monday for another episode of your favorite morning show. Until then, enjoy your weekend. I'm Jonathan Schanzer, signing off for FDD.